Hey everyone, thanks for tuning back into mattsteinway.com. We're on the car cam. I wanted to talk about networking and the different sorts of networking that there is. Look, you know, when we think of networking, quite often we think about like groups and going to networking places and that sort of thing, and that's completely fine. It definitely works for some people, like Eddie Pittington, Matt LaHood from McGrath. You know, they've built their careers and building their careers on a networking foundation, which is in that sort of respect, which is brilliant. You know, it's excellent. I think half of Eddie's income come from that networking group that he does, and I know probably 80% of or 70% of the business Matt LaHood generates is from that the networking group he's had for years and years and years. So 100% works in that capacity. I probably just wanted to shine a different light on it. I've never really been a networker in the traditional sense. I've seen my farm area as networking. I'm not sort of driven by you know, a group, going to a group every month, or you know, a structured meeting or whatever else. I've seen prospecting as really networking for me, and they're exactly the same. I mean, they're both prospecting to some degree, but service to me is networking, and this is probably more what I wanted to talk about. You know, what's networking to you? It is different for different people. I know some people, you know, they like to work their schools, and I think Glenn Cortino is quite big on that. You know, he works the school families and the contacts through school and other things as well, or people like football clubs or surf clubs or whatever it may be, which is brilliant. So I wanted to ask you, what's your networking strategy, if you have one? To me, it's prospecting my farm area, like I said before, and my database, and providing brilliant service to people seems to have this natural flow about it for me, and I nurture it more on a one-on-one basis rather than in a group, because as many of you know, I'm not a big fan of groups and crowds, but you know, that's just my style. It's just what works for me, and you've got to do what works for you. And if you find a groove that works for you, then you know, you just power. But this is also what I wanted to say. Networking, just because you might happen to like a group situation, don't make that your only form of it. Don't make that your only form of prospecting. Have a prospecting networking strategy that covers all bases, because it's like I think Matt N wrote on his post this morning about the post this morning was question, and it was, you know, how have you been prospecting out of 10? And he wrote on his that I think his cold calls have been good, but he hasn't had a database strategy, and that's a really good, but he's going to change that. But that's a really good outline of covering all bases. You need a database strategy, you need, you know, your farm strategy, a networking strategy in the traditional sense in terms of a group. I think Jimmy's actually going to try and start one of Eddie Pittington's groups up here, you know, in our area. I think you've got to register and obviously form a unit of it. But to Jimmy, that's going to be one of his legs of his business. And if you have like 3, 4, 5 legs going on that are all nurtured really well and have got a lot of momentum, you're headed for massive success. So I know some people love, you know, networking in that traditional sense in terms of groups, and that's sort of what they do, and that's as much prospecting as they do, and you know, they see that as their networking channel where they're going to generate most business. But I think that's too thin. Really think to yourself, what are the 3, 4, 5, 6 legs to my business that I'm going to give a lot of energy to, and hopefully expect a lot of return from. So, little video about networking. It's like I said before, everyone has a different opinion and different feel of what works for them, and you know, the networking in those traditional sense hasn't worked for me, but it's worked extraordinarily well for other people. But imagine you had a number of things that were working extraordinarily well, producing 2, 3, 4 listings each out of each leg every month, then you're headed for massive results. Alright everyone, just something to think about, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.